Hello guys, I have mentioned many times in my videos that it is easier and makes more sense to take each Chinese character as one word, as opposed to taking them as letters, which doesn't make sense at all. Well, then I do get challenges from some viewers saying that some Chinese characters are not words. They give examples such as xi shuai. Xi shuai means cricket. The two characters that make this word, xi and shuai, does not have meaning if they are put individually. That is, they only make sense when they are put together, xi shuai. Then neither xi nor shuai is a word. This is very good argument. But then, what are Chinese characters if they are not words? Today, let's talk about this. Throughout this video, let's use this Chinese sentence and its English equivalence as the example. This sentence is, 我以前偶尔喝咖啡。I 以前 in the past, formerly, 偶尔 occasionally, sometimes, once in a while. 喝 to drink. 咖啡 is coffee. 我以前偶尔喝咖啡。I in the past occasionally had coffee, or I used to have coffee occasionally. First, are Chinese characters letters? 汉字是字母吗？ They are not letters because you don't see any letter in Chinese, right? The Chinese language does not have an alphabet. While the letters we see in European languages, including English, say from A to Z, they represent sounds and you can use them to spell words. But Chinese does not have these letters. It does not have an alphabet. The Chinese characters are logograms, which means that they are symbols that have meaning. They do also have sound, but you cannot tell what the sound is from the look of them. That is, you cannot spell with these characters, or these strokes that make these characters. It cannot be spelled. Well, you might think of pinyin, right? But I have to point out that the pinyin system was invented to help illiterate people and small children to learn to read faster. They came only later. They are not part of the Chinese language itself. To say that pinyin symbols are the Chinese language is like saying this is English. I used to have coffee occasionally. Would you say this is the English language? No one would say so, right? In the same sense, no one would say that the pinyin symbols are the Chinese language. They are not part of the language itself. So, the Chinese characters are not letters. Actually, the Chinese language does not contain letters. It has nothing to do with letters. Are Chinese characters syllables? 汉字是音节吗？ Syllable, 音节. With English, each syllable is defined as one vowel. That is, if when you see one vowel, you define it as a syllable. Say in this English sentence, I used to have coffee occasionally. I, one syllable. Used, one syllable. To, one syllable. Have, one syllable. Because they all have one vowel. And then coffee, two vowels. So coffee has two syllables. And occasionally, five vowels, so five syllables. So altogether we have I used to have coffee, and then plus 5, 11 syllables in this English sentence. While in Chinese, the syllable is very easy because almost in all the cases, one character, the sound of each character is one syllable. 我以前偶尔喝咖啡. 8 characters, 8 syllables. But you cannot say that the characters are the syllables because only the sound of these characters are syllables. The characters carry these sounds, but they also carry something more. They also carry the meanings. So you can say that each Chinese character corresponds to one syllable, but you cannot say that they are the syllables. And then there's still one very small exception, that is with the 儿化音, like in the word 老头. 老头儿. This word means old man. It is made of 3 characters, 老头儿. But then for 头 and 儿, we don't read them as 头儿. We read them as 头 with 儿化音. That is, the sounds of these 2 characters are combined to make 头 instead of 头儿. So 老头, 老头. This is a rare case where 2 characters correspond to one syllable. And this only happens in the 普通话 system on the Chinese mainland. In Taiwan 国语, they do not have the 儿化音, so they will just read it as 老头. They don't say 老头儿 or 老头, they just say 老头. But that's one very small exception. But still, you cannot say that characters are the syllables because they also carry meaning apart from the sounds. Are Chinese characters morphemes? 汉字是语速吗? Morpheme in Chinese is 语速. It is defined as the smallest unit of language that has meaning. For instance, in this English sentence, I used to have coffee occasionally. I is a morpheme. It means I. It has a meaning, and it is an independent and concrete meaning. So I is called a root morpheme or free morpheme. Similarly, we also have to and have and coffee. These three, words are also free morphemes or root morphemes. But then, I used to have coffee occasionally. In this word, used, there are two morphemes, use and ed. Use is a root morpheme or free morpheme. It has meaning. Here it means some sort of practice. And ed is called a bound inflectional morpheme. It is bound because it has to be bound with a verb, here with the verb use. It is inflectional because it is like a inflective form of the word use. Use become used because of this morpheme, ed. So it is a bound inflectional morpheme. It has meaning. It means the action happens in the past. Its meaning is only grammatical, but it still has meaning. So it is a morpheme, just not a free or independent morpheme. And in the word occasionally, we have three morphemes. Occasion, the root morpheme, and al, the adjective suffix, and ly, the adverb suffix. So in this sentence, I used to have coffee occasionally. We have I used to have coffee and then plus 3 from occasionally. 6 plus 3, yes, 9 morphemes. And then similarly, in Chinese, morpheme is also defined as the smallest unit of language that has meaning. In 我以前偶尔喝咖啡, 我 is a morpheme, it means I. And in this word, 以前, both 以 and 前 are morphemes because they have meaning in this word. 以 is an ancient functional word that means to take something as reference. And 前 means before, ahead, or past. So originally and literally, 以前 means taking the past as reference. And its modern meaning is in the past, previously, or formerly. 以前. 以前 is a word made of 以 and 前, but in this word, both 以 and 前 are morphemes. And also in 偶尔, 偶 means rare, infrequent, and 尔 means so, like this or thus. So 偶尔 means not so frequently, and its modern meaning is once in a while, sometimes. So although 偶尔 is one word made of the characters o and r, both o and r have meaning in this word, so they also are two morphemes. And then 喝 means to drink. It is an independent or free morpheme. And then 咖啡, well, if you take these two characters apart, neither 咖 nor 啡 makes any sense. Only when you put them together to become coffee, that is 咖啡, does it have meaning. So in this sentence, 我以前偶尔喝咖啡, we have 我以前偶尔喝咖啡, 7 morphemes. 8 characters but 7 morphemes. Are Chinese characters words? 汉字是词吗? In English, we don't even have to give a definition to word because it is defined by this space. Before one space is one word. So, I used to have coffee occasionally. 6 words, very clear. But then in Chinese, you don't have this space between the characters or between the words. And words or 词 or 词语 are defined as the smallest unit of the language that has a complete meaning and can be used freely and independently to form sentences. In this sense, in the sentence, 我以前偶尔喝咖啡, 我 is an independent unit of meaning that can be used freely to form sentences, right? So it is a word. 以前 is a word, it means in the past. 偶尔 is a word, it means occasionally, sometimes, once in a while. Although 乙 and 前 are morphemes, they are not words here because when they take this meaning, they cannot be used independently to make sentences. They can only form the word 以前 to mean this meaning. And the same with O and R. And then 喝, an independent word. 咖啡, a word. So 我以前偶尔喝咖啡, 5 words in this Chinese sentence. And then if we're going to summarize a little bit, in the English sentence, I used to have coffee occasionally. The number of characters is 0 because there's no characters. The number of letters is like this. And the number of syllables, I used to have coffee, and then 5 syllables in occasionally. So like this. And the number of morphemes, the word used has 2 morphemes, occasionally 3 morphemes, the other words 1 morpheme. And then the number of words, very simple. While in the Chinese sentence, 我以前偶尔喝咖啡, the number of characters is 8. Letters, no, there's no letters. The syllables, also 8. Morphemes is 7. It is less than 8 because 咖啡, 2 characters, only 1 morpheme. And then the number of words, even less. 我以前偶尔喝咖啡, 5 words. Then so far we can say that Chinese characters are definitely not letters. It does not have letter. It has nothing to do with letters. And then we can also safely say that most Chinese characters correspond to 1 syllable. It's also safe to say that most Chinese characters is 1 morpheme, that each individual Chinese character is 1 morpheme. But then with a few exceptions, mainly words like 咖啡 and 蟋蟀. And we can also say that most Chinese characters can be used as words individually. It is like what I said in another video, that is, just take each Chinese character as 1 word, as small words that's made of only 1 character. But then most of them can also be used to form bigger words made of 2, 3 or more characters. Because words like 咖啡 and 蟋蟀are not so many in the Chinese language system. I will make a separate video on this, what linguists call disyllabic monomorphemic words. They are called this because they have 2 syllables, so disyllabic. But they are only 1 morpheme, so monomorphemic. These words in Chinese are called 连绵词, 连绵词, 蟋蟀, 咖啡. These words are like the minority of the minority in the Chinese language. Most of the characters in the Chinese language can be used independently as words, like 山, which means mountain, 水, which means water, 人, which means human, people or person, and also 我 and 喝, which means I and to drink in the example sentence we talk about today. Most Chinese characters are like this. They can be used alone, independently as words, and in even more cases, they can be used as building blocks of longer words made of 2, 3 or 4 characters. Like 山水, it's 1 word. 山 is a word, 水 is a word, and 山水 is a word. Like 乙 can be used as a word in other contexts, and 前 can also be used as a word in other contexts, but then they can also form the word 以前. And also like in the word 电视, which means television, 电, which means electricity, power, can be used independently as a word in other contexts. And 视, which means vision, can also be used as a standalone word in other contexts. 电 and 视 are both words, and they can also make this longer word, which is 电视. This is like the basic pattern of the Chinese language. But then, what are Chinese characters exactly? Well, actually, linguists have come up with a special word that is morphosyllabic symbols to describe Chinese characters. That is because each Chinese character often maps to 1 morpheme and also 1 syllable. That is, they carry both meaning and sound, so morphosyllabic symbols. But then what I would suggest is that just call them Chinese characters, okay? Just call them 汉字, because they don't really correspond to letter, they don't really correspond to syllable, they don't really correspond to morpheme, and they are not exactly words. So just call them 汉字, just call them Chinese characters. Except for when the context calls otherwise, just call them 汉字, and it's mighty clear, right? in everyday Chinese learning and everyday use of the Chinese language, just remember that these characters can be independent morphemes, they can be independent words, but most of the times they are used to build longer words. In modern Chinese, single character words still exist and there are a lot, but then there are not as many as words made of 2 or more characters. Okay, that is all for today. See you next time.